Hello, Professor, Physician, Epidemiologist. I am Dr. Sri Banerjee. I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University. And in this video, I'm going to be going over the social determinants of health, and the perspective that I'll be using is more of the global perspective. And what I mean by that is that when we take a perspective usually and talk about the social determinants of health within the perspective of the United States, we tend to gravitate towards the framework established by the Centers for Disease Control and contributed by other individuals in public health. But from a global perspective, there are some slight additional considerations that are emphasized. Elements of it is present in both models, but is emphasized more within the global framework. So let's explore that a little bit and take a look at what this means. So what I'm going to do here, I've provided a kind of an overview of the arrows and everything, and now I'm going to try to gradually fill it in and explain to you the global perspective of social determinants of health. So bear with me here. So the first thing we want to be thinking about is governance. Now, when we're thinking about governance, thinking about policies, thinking about ways that we can make a more equitable society. We're also thinking about macroeconomic policies, and what do I mean by this? Well, there are phases through which the global economy goes through. Currently, we're in a lot of inflation. Back in 2008, there was a recession, and periodically there's recessions that occur. Well, during these times, it's important to have policies that are put in place that protect vulnerable populations, because these are the populations that are especially affected during economic downturns or economic instability. The next part of this is, of course, social policies, and that means maintaining a labor market that is equitable. Of course, I've talked about redlining before, where certain areas were deemed to be unfit to live. So policies like this would not be beneficial. We would need more equitable policies for housing, and also in the labor market, making sure that there's equal pay between different gender and equitable pay, and also looking at land. The next part of this is public policies. The types of public policies that, of course, we want to be thinking about is in the realm of education, healthcare, social protection. Of course, these are all key ingredients to making sure that we maintain an equitable society. Then, of course, culture and societal values, they follow as well after this, and understanding the social determinants of health and understanding the disparities. So the next column that I want you to put your attention to is socioeconomic position. And so these these three aspects have been determined to be deemed to determine socioeconomic position. These are social class, gender, and ethnicity. And this is unique to the World Health Organization context of social determinants of health framework. This is actually incorporated into the figure. As the arrows indicate, this is something that does change, can change, as far as social class. Of course, gender and ethnicity remains the same. In this model, actually, social class is considered to be also stationary. Of course, there's education, and then after the type of education that you get, the occupation is determined, and then that determines the type of income that you get. So that completes all of the structural and social determinants of health disparities. Some are changeable, others aren't. Gender, ethnicity, racism, these types of gender and ethnicity are not changeable, of course, but racism we can address, and social class, things like that, it can, and socioeconomic position can change. So the next portion of this is material circumstances. And then understanding that the living and the working conditions and food availability, these contribute to the material conditions that allow for a person to be successful and have the basic needs met within society. The next part of this is behaviors and biological factors. These are especially important to keep in mind in terms of course, there are genetics to keep in mind, but also in terms of behaviors and lifestyles. These are important. I want to bring your attention to social cohesion and capital, because this is something that is important in a sense of community, and I've written a lot about the effects of loneliness and other things, and so social cohesion is especially important to maintain. And then psychosocial factors, of course, are important. So this then leads us to the intermediary determinants and social factors. And then so these all lead to an impact on equity in health and well-being. So now that we have determined all of the contributory factors that lead to impact of equity in health and well-being, once this is met, now there are certain things that happen that I want to show you where this actually perpetuates even improved conditions in society. So let me show you that. So I'm going to end this now with explaining this health system here and providing kind of details about this this portion of the diagram. So health system has been, if this is in good shape, then the idea is that then that will start to improve some of these intermediary determinants, such as psychosocial factors, behavioral factors, etc. And I apologize for the slight dark screen, but if it improves, then you can also improve impact on equity in health and well-being. And that then in turn improves some of the socioeconomic and political contexts. So this is all interrelated, and so having a good impact on equity in health and well-being then circles back, and that's the ending point of of all of this, really, that we can circle back and really improve overall health by addressing social determinants of health. And then once you address social determinants of health, then you're improving overall health. So that was the guiding principle behind the World Health Organization Social Determinants of Health 2010 framework. Thank you for listening.